Want to play roulette? Here's a tip. European roulette has a lower house edge than American style. The lower the house edge, the better shot you have at winning. Most online casinos offer European roulette. So, if I were you, I'd get spinning. Now, go get lucky. See you in Lost Pages. Let's get lucky.
This is the moment every fan waits for. The countdown's over. The road to kickoff has begun.
Play is here to stay.
I'm not going to name names, Kevin.
From win totals to player props, from division races to MVP debates, we've got eyes on every camp and data feeding 24/7, breaking down every angle across the league. Every pick, every edge, every line that matters. SportsGrid. Your road to kickoff starts now.
Justin Rose has done it so many times in his career. That's like he's so good at everything. There's nothing that he's bad at. You know, every part of his game is at close to a elite level when it's good. And so when he had it going on this week, he's not scared, dude. When he gets that look in his eye, watch out.
The Smiley Show, only on
If you don't like getting hit, you can't do BKFC point blank.
Oh, absolutely. Like in the MMA world, you have opportunities to negate getting hit more so than BKFC. You can get a takedown, you can secure a dominant position where you're less likely to get hit. And even if you are getting hit, you're less damaging because of your position.
Combat Sports Report, only on SportsGrid.
What's going on, and welcome to Game Time Decisions right here on SportsGrid. My name is Tom Vecchio. The last and final day that I will be hosting tomorrow. Kevin Walsh will be back in the mix, bringing you Game Time Decisions. But last day here, we have a ton to get to. We have MLB action that has already been underway. We have MLB action that is about to get going. We'll, of course, return to Tom's 12. That is the top 12 fantasy players per position. Today, we are doing tight ends. We will get to that. We're also going to mix in a few different segments. We'll have some guests here to break down some baseball, some NFL season-long player props when it comes to wide receivers, and, of course, some golf. But we have to hop right into things because games for the MLB are starting in just about 10 minutes or even less than 10 minutes. So let's hop into some of the crew best bets for today. Myself, I'm going with the Brewers at the Cubs. That game total under 6.5 total runs. As you can see, I am aligned with AJ, one of our producers. We both like the under in that game. Kriskowski behind the wheels right now. He likes the Yankees versus the Rays, both teams to score 3+ runs, sitting at -115. Of course, the Yankees coming off a huge game last night with 9 home runs. And Pat also likes that game, Yankees-Rays, under 8.5. So we are trying to thread a bit of a needle there. That game could end 4-3, 5-3. Either way, and we'd have both of those cash. We're obviously coming off a great day yesterday where the Blue Jays team total hit while we were still live. Pat hit the Juan Soto home run, if I remember correctly. We had AJ come through with a Kyle Seager home run. So we were cashing bets left and right yesterday. Now let's move on to another quick segment we have to get to before some of these games are starting very, very quickly. It's Wednesday. We're going some wacky Wednesday bets for today. So these are kind of all over the place. Let's start with mine. Mine's up at +290. So we're going with the Braves alt team total over 2.5 and Michael Harris to get a hit versus Martin Perez, along with the Mets team total alt over 2.5, Lindor to get a hit versus Brad Lord, Twins alt team total over 2.5, and Byron Buxton to get a hit. That is altogether up at +290. As for Kofsky, he likes Rays versus Yankees, both teams to score 3+ runs, White Sox, Braves, both teams to score 3+ runs, Pete Alonso for 2+ HRR, that is hits, runs, RBIs combined, any combination of them, along with Tyler Soderstrom on the A's, boosted up to 1027. AJ likes any player to get a hit inside the park, home run, Giants, Padres, 75-1. And then Pat likes Hamby for 20+ points and Xavier Edwards over half a stolen base at 494. So we are all over the place when it comes to some of these wacky bets. Obviously, the 75-1 from AJ, not something I expected from him for a player to have an inside the park home run. Regardless of that, the real main event tonight is going to be Brewers at Cubs. As I said at the top, both myself and AJ like this game total under. We are seeing about 15-mile-per-hour wind blowing in at Wrigley Field. We know what the wind does at Wrigley. It is a park that is more weather sensitive compared to the MLB average. So we often see very low totals when we are either A, dealing with colder weather, especially beginning of the season, or B, dealing with wind. And obviously, this is why we often see wind impact the totals when wind is blowing out. We see those totals fly over 12, 13, 14 runs. So under 6.5 total runs is my best bet for today. This is obviously a big game, not only for what we're expecting tonight, but really how this series has played out. The Cubs have managed to get a couple games back from the Brewers, who were scorching hot before the end of the weekend. They obviously lost on Sunday to the Reds. And this series has gone in favor of the Cubs. And, this is really what the doctor ordered, because they are now with a 7-game lead, the Brewers, that is, when it comes to the NL Central. And if things went the other way in this series and the Brewers, let's just say, were able to take 4 of 5 in this series, the Brewers were going to be extending to, 10, 11 game lead before you know it, and they would be on cruise control when it's all said and done, heading into the final 6 weeks, 5-6 weeks of the season, whatever it might be. So that is the real main event for today. We'll, of course, have the golf. The Tour Championship is coming up this weekend. We'll have a guest there a little bit later to break that down. We're going to get into, again, some wide receiver props. But really, let's get into the rest of this MLB slate, because, again, we have games starting very, very shortly. Cardinals, Marlins, first pitch in just under 5 minutes. It's about even on both sides. Marlins minus 112. Cardinals now minus 104. It's an 8.5 total. We've seen some comebacks in this game. I like the Marlins to come away with this win. Alcantara on the mound for them. Palente on the mound for the Cardinals. When it's all said and done, Alcantara has been great this year, but I will certainly take the Marlins at home, and I would lean on the under in this game, under 8.5. Not expecting too many runs despite what we have seen. As for the Mets and the Nationals, again, mentioned this game a few different times, just expecting some runs being scored, especially when it comes to the Mets side of things. Kodai Senga on the mound for the Mets. They are minus 172 road favorites. This should tell you enough about the Nationals. Brad Lord is on the mound for the Nats. The Nats are not a good team. The Mets are surging when they need it most, because they, went through a bit of a rough stretch, but they've certainly turned things around. A good series over the weekend versus the Mariners, and now they are putting together some wins and, more importantly, some runs and some good pitching versus the Nationals right now. So I believe yesterday Pat had this game over 9 as his best bet. I think the game ended 8-1. I think he had it over 9, so he got a push there. So that's at least good to see. So some wins yesterday along with a push. Now on to what has really just been a crazy series back and forth between the White Sox and the Braves. The Braves are seemingly playing better baseball over the past week, 10 days or so. We saw the White Sox come away with the win in Game 1. We saw 21 runs last night. Absolutely craziness. And at one point, the Braves were down, I think it was 6 or 7 at one point. They come storming back and win the game. They're now minus 180 on this updated money line. Waldrop's on the mound for them. Perez on the mound for the White Sox. As I mentioned, I do like the Braves to continue to score. Michael Harris has been red hot at the plate. Even though it's a lefty-lefty matchup, I will certainly take Michael Harris in the spot just to get a hit. Doesn't matter what kind of hit it is. And eventually we'll get some action against the White Sox bullpen, which we know is terrible. So we have 3 games about to start. Earlier in the day, we did see some MLB action come through. We saw the Pirates sneak away a win to end the series versus the Blue Jays. They won at 2-1. Very low-scoring game, not what I was expecting there. The Phillies continue to pour it on, won the game versus the Mariners 11-2. The Phillies also had 20 hits. They are seemingly rolling at the most important time of the season. We know that they lost Zach Wheeler, but they're still getting great pitching over the last few days. The Tigers continue to pour things on versus the Astros, and more importantly, the Astros offense is terrible right now. They are not scoring. They're not even hitting the ball. So very, very concerning signs. And then the Diamondbacks won in extra innings 3-2 over the Guardians. When you're looking at the AL, the playoff picture overall, what jumps out to me would be the Mariners at this point. The Astros have no offense as of late. They almost got perfect gamed last Friday. They're not scoring, and the Mariners can't win right now. They can't hit. They can't score. They are off tomorrow. They are back at home on Friday, taking on the Athletics. I will say it is like mandatory that they win 2 of those 3 games, if not sweep that series versus the Athletics. They have to win that series if they want to stay firmly in the wild card. But man, they got to have their sights set higher when it comes to winning the AL West, with the Astros struggling at this point. Josh Hader is shut down for apparently the rest of the season. He's not going to be pitching. This is the time to strike for the Mariners. So the playoff picture is in flux right now, and then the Yankees and the Sox, the Red Sox that is, will be starting a 4-game series starting tomorrow. So very, very important stretch for so many of these different teams. We're coming up against a break right now. We're going to dive into some NFL things. Again, we'll get back to Tom's 12, the top 12 fantasy players per position. Today, we're doing some tight ends. We'll then move over to some season-long wide receiver props that I like. Adam Kaufman will join us a little bit after that, and we'll continue to discuss things. Stay tuned right here on SportsGrid.
Enter into the magical world of McLuck.com, where even the smallest of spins can win real cash prizes. Adventure into over 1,000 of the best Vegas-style slot games. So what are you waiting for? Unlock your free welcome offer today. Join the fun where winners play and players win.
We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune in to Game Time Decisions weekdays on SportsGrid.
This is the moment every fan waits for. The countdown's over. The road to kickoff has begun.
Play is here to stay.
I'm not going to name names, Kevin.
From win totals to player props, from division races to MVP debates, we've got eyes on every camp and data feeding 24/7, breaking down every angle across the league. Every pick, every edge, every line that matters. SportsGrid. Your road to kickoff starts now.
Did you know sportsbooks tend to draw up tighter bet lines for events that get even more bettors, like championship games or major matchups? My tip, try betting on less popular sports. You might have a better shot at beating those odds. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
What's going on? Welcome back to Game Time Decisions right here on SportsGrid. My name is Tom Vecchio. We preview the baseball slate, gave you some of the crew of best bets for today. We have the Marlins and the Cardinals just getting underway right now. We got a little bit of time between that game just starting, the other games. Here are the crew best bets for today. Certainly looking at some unders when it comes to Brewers, Cubs. We know the wind is blowing in. Kofsky likes the Rays and the Yankees both to score 3+ runs. And then Pat also likes the under in that game. But since we have a little bit of time, let's jump back to the segment that we've been doing over the past few days, which is called Tom's 12, the top 12 fantasy players per position for this upcoming NFL season. We did quarterbacks yesterday. We did wide receivers on Monday. We did running backs last Thursday. Let's run through player by player, starting at number 12. If we have the player cards for this, we'll go through that. Starting at number 12, Kyle Pitts. Yes, I am buying into Kyle Pitts for one more season. There have been very encouraging reports, as there has been for a lot of years, with Kyle Pitts at Atlanta Falcons training camp and preseason, the on-field connection, hopefully fully there with now Michael Penix at the helm. Yes, I understand that he has burned people plenty of times, but the offense is really suited for them to move the ball. I think they're going to be scoring a ton of points. And really, the main target competition that he should have will be Drake London. I think Darnell Mooney is super solid. I think Ray McCloud is super solid. Bijan Robinson coming out of the backfield. Yes, but receiving, Kyle Pitts should take a step forward. Next up, number 11, Colston Loveland, the rookie from the Chicago Bears. I am buying into some of the hype, and I'm buying into the leap that Caleb Williams is supposed to take. It is a bit of a busy offense with DJ Moore, Rome Odunze, Luther Burden, but with Ben Johnson now as the head coach and obviously a bit of an offensive genius, there should be plenty of passing opportunities for Caleb Williams. I'm not worried about Cole Kmet, the tight end who's been there for the past few years. And frankly, if you told me DJ Moore took a half a step back when it comes to his production and they trying to grow the roles of Odunze, who they drafted last year, Luther Burden, who they drafted this year, Colston Loveland, who they drafted this year, get the young players involved with your young quarterback. That's the route forward. Number 10, let's move on to Mark Andrews. We know how slow he started the season last year, but he ended it on a high note with 673 yards and, more importantly, 11 touchdowns. Frankly, I'm putting him in there because the target consistency that he has in the Ravens offense is super, super strong. And I'm also looking at this from a Ravens perspective that they need to get him moving the entire season. And like, how many more bites at the apple does Mark Andrews and the Ravens really have? That's really what it comes down to. We know he's getting up there in age. I'll take one more shot on Mark Andrews to finish inside the top 12. Next up, let's go to Tucker Kraft for the Green Bay Packers. Yes, it is a very busy passing offense for the Packers. They drafted Matthew Golden this year. They still have Dobbs. They still have Wicks. They still have Christian Watson, who's hurt. There's a lot of different options in the Packers offense. We know Josh Jacobs is coming out of the backfield. However, Tucker Kraft has been remarkably consistent. And when different wide receivers are in and out of the lineup, whether it's players being suspended, injuries, Reed, Wicks, Dobbs, all these players, Tucker Kraft is there game in and game out and provides that level of consistency that Jordan Love needs when it comes to the passing game. So if you told me his touchdowns took a half a step back, he did finish with 7 this year, let's call it 5, but his yards increased and he pushed past 800 receiving yards, that's what I could see happening for Tucker Kraft. Really do like him finishing inside the top, not only the top 12, but the top 10 this year. Next up at number 8, let's turn to David Njoku for the Cleveland Browns. Now, he didn't have the biggest numbers last year when it's all said and done. 97 targets is pretty darn solid. 505 yards is pretty thin on nearly 100 targets. 5 touchdowns, sure. He also only played 11 games. The issue that could theoretically hold David Njoku back this year would be changes at the quarterback for the Cleveland Browns as the season progresses. We know that Joe Flacco has been announced as the starting quarterback for week 1, but they still have Kenny Pickett on the roster. They drafted Dylan Gabriel. They drafted Shadur Sanders. So at some point, I think we all agree that another quarterback's going to take the helm in Cleveland. And that could change things in terms of who they are prioritizing in the offense. It also could change things if they're 2-8 at some point in the season and they ship Joe Flacco out to some competitor and they bring in one of the young quarterbacks. It could just change the dynamic of who is targeted within the offense. I would expect his yards to increase this year. The touchdowns could be variable just because the Cleveland Browns are not going to be good. Next up, let's move to Evan Ingram for the now Denver Broncos. The way the Broncos operate on offense this year is going to be very interesting because they have a very solid receiver with Cortland Sutton. They have 2 young receivers, Marvin Mims and Devon Vele, who I still have questions about. And Mims, we know the downfield threat that he can be. We know the speed that he can be. But Evan Ingram brings some stability in the middle of the field to Bo Nix, a young quarterback. And obviously, what we get from their running game is yet to be seen, especially with the addition of rookie running back RJ Harvey. So I like Cortland Sutton on the outside. I think we could etch him in stone. He's going to be there. Mims and Vele, personally, I have some questions about their level of production we're going to get from them on a game-by-game basis. I believe their backfield will be solid, but that second receiving option, I think, is going to be up for grabs in the Denver offense. This is not to say that Mims can't grab it, but I think Evan Ingram is really in a solid spot this year overall. And number 6, to close out this first segment, we'll finish on the top 5 in the next segment. I'm going to put Travis Kelce there. Last season, everyone knows the slow start that he had, the level of inconsistency, 823 yards and only 3 touchdowns. If you look back at some of his other stats, the targets are in line with what he did a couple of years ago, 134 targets. He had 300 fewer yards last year compared to 2 years ago when he had 134 targets. So he was remarkably inconsistent last year. Also, the average, yards per route run, whatever you want to look at, was bad last year. This is also under the same kind of geist that I said with Mark Andrews. Is like, there were some retirement rumors with Travis Kelce. Like, how many more bites at the apple do they really have in that Kansas City offense together? So that's 12 through 6. We'll get to the top 5 on the other side of this break for Tom's 12, the top 12 fantasy players per position. We're doing tight ends to round things out. Coming up against the break right now, stay tuned right here on SportsGrid. GameTime Decisions. We'll move on.
Mets are a game and a half up in the wild card race from the Cincinnati Reds. But the Cincinnati Reds are 16 to 1, Joe. 60-1 to win the pennant here. But I do find myself looking at the New York Mets saying there's too much talent on that team. And we know how things work out, even with the Philadelphia Phillies in the playoffs last year. Hey, we're a good baseball team. Mets get hot at the end of the year. Mets knock the Phillies out of the playoffs. We've seen that happen before.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Jalen Lane, 4th-round receiver from Virginia Tech, who's a dynamic slot receiver. Run after the catch. He's had a phenomenal camp. Really great offseason. He is really gifted. And obviously with McLaurin not practicing, he's getting a lot more of a look. Right. Now, the problem is, without McLaurin, they're not very deep at the outside receiver position. But Jalen Lane is a stud talent. I'm telling you, this kid should have gone higher.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
He's going to regress a little potentially in touchdowns, but his role's not going to change. There's no other superstar on this team besides Josh Allen. So to me, James Cook, they need James Cook if the Buffalo Bills are going to repeat in that division again. They need him to be that guy in the offense because there isn't another star around Josh Allen. So James Cook is as close as it gets. I'm sorry, it's not Khalil Shakir. It doesn't look like it's ever going to be Keon Coleman or Dalton Kincaid.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid. This is the moment every fan waits for. The countdown's over. The road to kickoff has begun.
Play is here to stay.
I'm not going to name names, Kevin.
From win totals to player props, from division races to MVP debates, we've got eyes on every camp and data feeding 24/7, breaking down every angle across the league. Every pick, every edge, every line that matters. SportsGrid. Your road to kickoff starts now.
What's going on? Welcome back to Game Time Decisions right here on SportsGrid. My name is Tom Vecchio. The baseball slate is underway. We will touch on that and get back to that in just a few minutes. We are going through Tom's 12, the top 12 fantasy players per position. In the previous segment, we did 12 through 6, and now we are doing 5 through 1 when it comes to tight ends. And the top 2, I think everyone would agree on. 5 could be changing, and could be changing based on the news we got just a little while ago, which was after I had finalized this list. But 5 as of now, or as I had, is George Kittle of the San Francisco 49ers. Great stuff from him last year. As you see, 1,100 yards. The touchdowns were great, up at 8. We did get news very recently that Demarcus Robinson is now suspended for the first few games of the season for the 49ers. Brandon Ayuk is out until, they said the projection is week 6 for him returning from his ACL injury. Juwan Jennings is still not practicing. So the point being is that there's actually a path forward for George Kittle to be a little bit more productive than maybe I was initially anticipating, at least prior to this suspension and some of the injury news still up in the air for the 49ers. Again, George Kittle, some people have him at 3, some people have him at 4 or 5. I think he's going to be well within this range. I don't think he drops below 6 this year, but I also don't think he'll be above 3 in really any circumstance. So he's going to be right within this range again. Something you always want. Number 4, maybe a player I'm a little bit higher on compared to others. That would be TJ Hawkinson of the Minnesota Vikings. Last year from him, we have to remember he missed weeks 1 through 7. He had 455 yards and the no receiving touchdowns, but still a good role for him overall. 18% target share, 12% red zone target share. I'm expecting both of those to increase this year. We know that Jordan Addison is suspended for the first few weeks for the Vikings. Justin Jefferson still dealing with a little bit of an issue in training camp, and we have, I'm not going to say a rookie quarterback with J.J. McCarthy, but he didn't play last year in his rookie year. He is making his first NFL season or his first NFL starts, whatever it might be, and tight ends have generally been a bit of a safety blanket for QBs, especially young ones. So if you told me that 12% target share, 12% red zone target share from last year rose to 15, 16, 17%, that is really beneficial for TJ Hawkinson, who realistically could be the second receiving option in the Vikings passing offense outside of Justin Jefferson. Again, Jordan Addison is suspended. Jalen Naylor, their third string receiver, really doesn't bring too much to the table. I think it could be Justin Jefferson, TJ Hawkinson, 1-2. Number 3, let's turn to Sam Laporta of the Detroit Lions. As I mentioned when I spoke about Goff and when I spoke about St. Brown, when I spoke about Gibbs, the Lions offense from last year to this year is exactly the same, at least when it comes to a player personnel standpoint. It's Goff, it's Gibbs Montgomery, it's Laporta at tight end, it's Amon-Ra St. Brown, and it's Jameson Williams. The big news is, of course, that Ben Johnson is no longer the OC. He's now the head coach in Chicago. So there is definitely reasonable expectation to assume that maybe someone like Jared Goff, who I spoke about yesterday, who had a 72% completion percentage last year, is due for a little bit of regression. And to see him drop down to what we saw the 2 years prior at 67 and 65 completion percentage, that's going to impact the offense overall. No doubt about it. But Sam Laporta, still very solid overall. 17% target share last year. More importantly, a 21% red zone target share. So valuable. The top 2 options are extremely clear when it comes to tight end. And number 2, I think unanimously people have Trey McBride for the Arizona Cardinals. Fantastic season from him. 29.3% target share from him. 32.8% red zone target share. And we know the story with Trey McBride last year was, where were the touchdowns? All these receptions, all these targets, all the yards, and no touchdowns. Or at least they didn't happen until later in the year. But he went a very long stretch without a true receiving touchdown because he had a fumble recovery for a touchdown, and then he had a rushing touchdown before he even had a receiving touchdown. But the volume of yards, the volume of targets are way too good to pass up. Trey McBride is in for a monster here, and I want to go on the record right now. He has a receiving touchdown in week 1 against the Saints. Book it. And number 1, Brock Bowers of the Vegas Raiders. 25.9% target share, 22.6% red zone target share, nearly 1,200 receiving yards, 112 receptions, and 5 touchdowns last year. He is the focal point in the passing offense for the Raiders. We know that. They drafted Ashton Genty. We know that. Outside of Bowers in the passing offense, Jacoby Myers is there. And then after that, it's kind of nobody. Bowers is in for another massive year. With Geno Smith at the helm, the TDs really should improve. So this is Tom's 12, the top 12 fantasy football tight ends for this upcoming season. We're coming up against a break right now. We'll get back to the baseball slate on the other side. We have some guests coming up. Stay tuned right here on SportsGrid.
Mets are a game and a half up in the wild card race from the Cincinnati Reds. But the Cincinnati Reds are 60 to, not 16 to 1, Joe, 60 to 1 to win the pennant here. But I do find myself looking at the New York Mets saying, there's too much talent on that team, and we know how things work out, even with the Philadelphia Phillies in the playoffs last year. Hey, we're a good baseball team. Mets get hot at the end of the year. Mets knock the Phillies out of the playoffs. We've seen that happen before.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Jalen Lane, fourth-round receiver from Virginia Tech, who's a dynamic slot receiver. Run after the catch. He's had a phenomenal camp. Really great offseason. He is really gifted. And obviously with McLaurin not practicing, he's getting a lot more of a look. Right. Now, the problem is, without McLaurin, they're not very deep at the outside receiver position. But Jalen Lane is a stud talent. I'm telling you, this kid should have gone higher.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
He's going to regress a little potentially in touchdowns, but his role's not going to change. There's no other superstar on this team besides Josh Allen. So to me, James Cook, they need James Cook if the Buffalo Bills are going to repeat in that division again. They need him to be that guy in the offense because there isn't another star around Josh Allen. So James Cook is as close as it gets. I'm sorry. It's not Khalil Shakir. It doesn't look like it's ever going to be Keon Coleman or Dalton Kincaid.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid. This is the moment every fan waits for. The countdown's over. The road to kickoff has begun.
Play is here to stay.
I'm not going to name names, Kevin.
From win totals to player props, from division races to MVP debates, we've got eyes on every camp and data feeding 24/7, breaking down every angle across the league. Every pick, every edge, every line that matters. SportsGrid. Your road to kickoff starts now.
What's going on? Welcome back to Game Time Decisions right here on SportsGrid. My name is Tom Vecchio. We just went through Tom's 12, the top 12 fantasy tight ends for this upcoming season. And in the midst of that segment, we just got an Adam Schefter tweet with a trade. And that would be the Broncos are sending Devon Vele, who I just spoke about in regards to Evan Ingram. They're sending Vele to the Saints for a 2026 fourth round pick and a 2027 seventh round pick. So the Broncos are not getting anyone back. Maybe this is theoretically encouraging for Marvin Mims that the Broncos coaching staff under Sean Payton believes that Mims has solidified himself in training camp and preseason in order to be the real number 2 wide receiver, because last year it was Cortland Sutton. And then it was just like, oh, is this player going to step up this game? Is it going to be someone else the next game? They didn't have a consistent second option. If Sean Payton and the Denver Broncos staff believe that Mims has solidified himself, that's a bonus for Mims. And it's also really a bonus for Evan Ingram because there's just one fewer player when it comes to target competition overall. So that's good to see. Let's get back to the baseball board. The Cardinals and the Marlins are in the bottom of the second. We did see the Nerfy come through in that one. No runs scored in the first inning there. The Mets and the Nats, also the Nerfy scored there. The Mets have, one on in the top of the second. The Mets also have 2 hits. Let's see who the hits are by, and one of them is by Frankie Lindor, who I said I liked him on one of the wacky Wednesday bets that I have would be the Mets all team total over 2.5, along with the other options. And Lindor to get a hit was one of them. So at least we're crossed one of the 6 legs as of now. We have some other games coming up, which I already spoke about. The White Sox Braves. We talked about the Yankees and the Rays. If we have the crew best bets, again, we could flash that quickly because both myself and AJ, we like the under in Brewers Cubs, under 6.5, wind blowing in from left field. Kopsky likes both the Yankees and the Rays to each score 3+ runs, and that's sitting at -115. And then Pat also likes Yankees Rays entire game under 8.5. So again, threading a bit of a needle there. But regardless of that, let's get back to some of the other games on the slate that we really haven't spoken about. Would be the Twins and the Athletics. That's coming up at 7:40. Twins are -122 at home. Bailey Ober on the mound for them. Athletics are plus 104. It should be JT Ginn on the mound for them. That starting pitcher had changed. It was supposed to be Perkins earlier in the day. It is a 9 total in that one. We are dealing with, 78 degrees, only 4-mile-per-hour wind blowing in. When it's all said and done, Bailey Ober's not really a good pitcher. You give me extra exposure to the Athletics bullpen, that's certainly fine. But still, at the end of the day, both lineups, I should really say, they still got some hitters in it, especially the Athletics. Kurtz, Langeliers, Rooker, Soderstrom, Butler is a pretty dynamite 1 through 5. And the Twins' bullpen is terrible. Bailey Ober is just not a good pitcher. So to see some runs across the board would not be a surprise. Let's touch on Brewers Cubs just a little bit more because this is the best bet for myself and AJ. Mizorowski is on the mound for the Brewers. Obviously, their young flamethrower. He's minus 118, and the Brewers are on the money line. We see the Cubs at plus 100. Colin Ray is on the mound for the Cubs, and again, the game total is sitting at 6.5. Mizorowski came back last week when they were on the road versus the Reds and got smacked around in the first few innings and left early, which was his first start after returning from the IL. But we have to remember that was a knee issue that he was dealing with. It was not an arm or shoulder, or elbow, nothing like that. As you see here, 1.1 innings, the walks, the strikeouts, absolutely terrible. So many earned runs. Now, they did come back and win that game when it was all said and done, but he still didn't look good overall. Colin Ray, realistically, middle-of-the-road pitcher when it's all said and done. Let's just check the starting lineups in this one. Kyle Tucker is still out for the Cubs. He has been struggling significantly in this massive slump. So Craig Counsell, the Cubs manager, said that they were going to give Kyle Tucker a couple of days off, and that they are holding true to that because he didn't play in either of the doubleheader games yesterday, and he's not playing today. So we have to see if he returns this weekend. Again, under 6.5 would be the game, the best bet in that game for myself and AJ. Let's move on to Rangers-Royals. Really a game that didn't pop off the page to me too much. I know the Texas Rangers will have, I believe it's Bushley on the mound tonight. It's not supposed to be Kumar Rocker unless things got changed in that, because I see one with Kumar Rocker and one with Bushley, if we can get an update on that. Caleb Bushley, and then was it Jacob Latz coming in as long relief? Regardless, the Rangers are all over the place because they're dead. You can see. Yeah. So it's Bushley. It's not Kumar. Yeah, so it is Bushley, but I believe he's opening, and Jacob Latz is coming in as the long reliever behind him, with Noah Cameron on the other side for the Royals. The rookie who has done, pretty solid job overall this season. What are we dealing with? 86 miles per hour, a little bit of wind blowing in. At the end of the day, if you told me this game ended under and either team won this 4-2, maybe 4-3, I wouldn't be surprised. I just think the Rangers are dead as a team overall, and I don't want to bet them too often, but the fact that you're getting plus money on them at plus 112 isn't the worst thing in the world. Let's move on to the game that stands out like a sore thumb today, which would be the Dodgers at Coors Field when they're minus 300 on the money line. Shohei Ohtani is pitching for them. We've seen the Dodgers offense, of course, explode. Yesterday, they put up all the runs. This is really what they needed. This is Ohtani's strikeout prop. There's reason to back the over, but I don't like it at this price. If you got it earlier in the day and you got better odds, that's totally fine, but minus 158 is a little bit too rich for my blood when it comes to Ohtani strikeout prop. If things were different and they were in LA, maybe. Like, that's a conversation to be had if they were in LA and they weren't at Coors Field. Because all it takes is one walk, one hung pitch, and we got a 2-run homer from the Rockies. And yes, the Rockies lineup is bad, but again, Coors Field can turn any pitcher into a bit of a tomato can. And if you told me the Rockies got 2 or 3 runs across the board against Ohtani and it drove his pitch count up, and all of a sudden he's at 50 pitches through 2 1/3 and they want to pull him, I'm not going to be surprised. So the point being is, I don't like the 5.5 and the juice. It was 5.5 and it was minus 120, minus 110. That's a different story, but 5.5 minus 158, no thanks. So this would just be a stay away from me when it's all said and done. Other games on tonight's slate as we move through some of the later games. The 2 last ones would be the Reds at the Angels. A bit of a toss-up here. Yusei Kikuchi on the mound for the Angels. Nick Martinez on the mound for the Reds. The Reds are winning at the most important time. They need to pick up as many wins as they can as they are hunting down one of the NL wildcard spots. They're plus 108. Yusei Kikuchi is pretty solid overall. Minus 126, they are on the money line at this point. I would take the Angels and the under. It's not enough plus money in the Reds at only plus 108. I don't think Nick Martinez is a very good pitcher. And then finally, Giants, Padres, JP Sears for the Padres, Landon Routt for the Giants. Again, I think this game screams under and the Padres. It's a little bit juice on the Padres at minus 132. The line has moved quite a bit since earlier today. But I think the Padres are obviously the more well-rounded team. And if you give me a lead with them at any point, and we know that Mason Miller is going to be coming in at the back end of that bullpen, I will certainly look to back them in any capacity. And maybe you don't like the 132 line. You want to wait for an inning or two to go by and gets closer to even money where the Giants jump out and grab a lead because JP Sears has struggled at times with fly balls. You give me the Padres at minus 110 or better, we can certainly look there. We have Adam Kaufman coming up next. We're going to talk through some MLB. We'll talk through some NFL, season-long NFL player props for wide receivers. So much going on. Stay tuned right here on Game Time Decisions. We'll be back.
Enter into the magical world of McLuck.com, where even the smallest of spins can win real cash prizes. Adventure into over 1,000 of the best Vegas-style slot games. So what are you waiting for? Unlock your free welcome offer today. Join the fun where winners play and players win.
We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune in to Game Time Decisions weekdays on SportsGrid.
This is the moment every fan waits for. The countdown's over. The road to kickoff has begun.
Play is here to stay.
I'm not going to name names, Kevin.
From win totals to player props, from division races to MVP debates, we've got eyes on every camp and data feeding 24/7, breaking down every angle across the league. Every pick, every edge, every line that matters. SportsGrid. Your road to kickoff starts now.
Did you know sportsbooks tend to draw up tighter bet lines for events that get even more bettors, like championship games or major matchups? My tip, try betting on less popular sports. You might have a better shot at beating those odds. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
What's going on? Welcome back to Game Time Decisions right here on SportsGrid. My name is Tom Vecchio. Let's welcome in our first guest, Adam Kaufman, good friend of the program, someone I speak to regularly when it comes to all sports. Adam, welcome back. I know you were on vacation. You got plenty of color. Let's hop right into the baseball slate because we got plenty to get to. Yankees Rays, obviously a million home runs last night. Is that what you're expecting for tonight's game?
Yeah, I mean, obviously going on vacation doesn't mean I wasn't betting, Tom. I was still on the streets, let me tell you. But yeah, this is a game that I find interesting. I know that I've seen a lot of people over on strikeouts for Schlittler. We always have to say that very slowly to make sure we get it right. But Rasmussen is intriguing on the other side, just in terms of backing the Rays, right? 3 earned runs against the Yankees so far in 2 starts this season. Both games won by Tampa, whether you want to look at that as a Tampa full or Tampa first 5. I could go either way, or maybe a small investment in each one. You want to split a unit up into halves, do it that way. On top of that, he's only allowed 7 runs total over his last 30 and a third innings going back to the start of July. So, I mean, you know me. I've talked about it on these shows. I talk about it with you ad nauseum. When there's a pitcher who, one, I just believe in a matchup, and I believe in the guy to be better than the one that he's opposing on the other side, that already has my interest. But then you tack on the fact that he has just been rolling, and I want to lean into the hot streak for him.
Right. And on Monday, when I was previewing the series, I said from the jump, I said, give me the Yankees game 1, but give me the Rays in game 2, because it's a getaway day for the Yankees. They start a 4-game series with the Sox tomorrow. You split the series versus the Rays. You wash your hands and move on. Bigger things at task starting tomorrow. Let's move on to Rangers Royals. I just kind of previewed this game quickly in the last segment. I frankly have no interest in this game. I think this lands under. It's a little bit of juice on Cameron, who's pitching for the Royals. What's your take?
Well, look, I don't know a lot about Bushley, other than obviously this guy is a reliever by nature. It's an opener situation. He pitched an inning literally 2 days ago, so we're barely going to see him out there in this one. And again, I look toward Cameron. He's a good pitcher. He's not great, but he's only allowed 1 earned run over his last 2 starts in totality. So, of course, in a small sample size, it's 2 starts, and against a bad White Sox team and a, generally unimpressive Twins team as well. But even still, 1 run is 1 run over 2 starts, and you tack on top of that he's only lost 1 decision going back to his last 8 starts. So he keeps his teams in games. Doesn't mean obviously they've won 7 out of 8 that he's started, but he's only taking the loss in 1. So whereas I said with that first game that we talked about with the Rays, I like them to win that game. This is a situation with the Royals where maybe I'm more interested in the first 5 play. Lay the juice. That's fine. Or put the juice with, I know we'll get to this game, put the juice with a Dodgers first 5 play on Ohtani, that type of thing. Or even Dodgers full against the Rockies. We discuss it, pardon me, all the time. The fact that you can take some of these heavily juiced plays, put them together, make a nice plus money play out of it.
Yeah, so the Dodgers minus 300 is an insane line. And obviously some of that has to do with just seeing Ohtani on the mound and the name brand, kind of just recognition overall, because they weren't this high the other day. They weren't this high on Monday. But would this be the, I would say, assumed dance partner for some things today for a lot of people, the Dodgers plus something else, just because you have to make the odds work? And is there anything else in this game specifically you like, or are you just taking a piece of it to pair with something else?
Yeah, I mean, I would pair, again, Dodgers first 5, lean into Ohtani, put them again with, a team like the Royals first 5, do it that way and see if we can get a nice plus money number and cash it. But in terms of this game in particular, strategizing these games when you have this level of juice, it always comes down to 2 things. You're not more than likely going to invest in minus 300 as a straight. Some people will. It's not my threshold. It's not what I'm interested in. But you could either do Dodgers run line, which I could get behind, or obviously you're going to chase that plus money number with the Rockies on the money line, which I don't particularly want to do in this spot. I don't necessarily feel compelled to back the Dodgers, though, any more than what I was going to do as a parlay piece. What would interest me as a prop in this game is Ohtani. I know we're sort of still building up to thinking about him as a pitcher as this season goes, just because obviously he started late, coming off the injury, all of that. But last time out against his former Angels, and I'm sure you know this, 80 pitches. 80 pitches. That's a real start. That's, knocking the rust off and going for it and seeing if you can get a real outing out of this guy, not just sort of, setting him up for, okay, he's going to pitch 2 innings, 3 innings, maybe 4. Now, what bit him was he didn't pitch particularly well and still didn't get through 5 full. He went into the 5th inning, couldn't finish off that frame. And so, with Ohtani, I think the pitch count's going to be there. I think the length is going to be there. And this is a Rockies team, Tom, that strikes out almost 10 times per 9 innings. The second most strikeouts per 9 in all of baseball. Ohtani, over his last 8 innings, has 15 strikeouts. So I want to go over on Ohtani strikeouts. I want to ladder the guy up to, maybe 8, 9.
Okay, because I was just in the previous segment saying I'm not a fan of his strikeouts, especially at that price, laying the juice solely, I don't say solely, but largely because the game is at Coors Field and, a couple bad pitches turn into a couple home runs. But from Ohtani, talking about his prior team, the Angels, they're at home today, slight favorites going up against the Reds. The Reds have a ton to play for. They've been playing better as of late, picking up some wins in the NL wild card race. But Kikuchi's on the mound for the Angels. The odds have moved just a bit. What do you like in this one?
So I told myself going in when I first started looking at this game was, I need a reason to not back the Angels. And once you start looking into, individual performances of late, it gets pretty easy, actually, to look for plus money, at least on a sprinkle if you want to go toward the Reds. Kikuchi has not been good of late. Is he the superior pitcher? Does he have better stats overall? The answer's yes to both of those questions. But you look back, he has allowed at least 2 earned runs in 8 of his last 9 starts, going back to the start of July. His ERA has climbed nearly a full run in that span. Martinez, on the other side, has only allowed 2+ runs once in his last 7 starts. The issue is he got hammered by the Brewers last time out. So I would either a little sprinkle on plus money or just stay away.
Adam, stick around for one more segment. We'll talk some NFL game time decisions. Rolls on. Stay tuned.
The Mets are a game and a half up in the wild card race from the Cincinnati Reds. But the Cincinnati Reds are 16 to 1, Joe. 60 to 1 to win the pennant here. But I do find myself looking at the New York Mets saying there's too much talent on that team. And we know how things work out, even with the Philadelphia Phillies in the playoffs last year. Hey, we're a good baseball team. Mets get hot at the end of the year. Mets knock the Phillies out of the playoffs. We've seen that happen before.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Jalen Lane, 4th round receiver from Virginia Tech, who's a dynamic slot receiver. Run after the catch. He's had a phenomenal camp. Really great offseason. He is really gifted. And obviously with McLaurin not practicing, he's getting a lot more of a look. Right. Now, the problem is, without McLaurin, they're not very deep at the outside receiver position. But Jalen Lane is a stud talent. I'm telling you, this kid should have gone higher.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
He's going to regress a little potentially in touchdowns, but his role's not going to change. There's no other superstar on this team besides Josh Allen. So to me, James Cook, they need James Cook if the Buffalo Bills are going to repeat in that division again. They need him to be that guy in the offense because there isn't another star around Josh Allen. So James Cook is as close as it gets. I'm sorry, it's not Khalil Shakir. It doesn't look like it's ever going to be Keon Coleman or Dalton Kincaid.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid. This is the moment every fan waits for. The countdown's over. The road to kickoff has begun.
Play is here to stay.
I'm not going to name names, Kevin.
From win totals to player props, from division races to MVP debates, we've got eyes on every camp and data feeding 24/7, breaking down every angle across the league. Every pick, every edge, every line that matters. SportsGrid. Your road to kickoff starts now.
What's going on? Welcome back to Game Time Decisions right here on SportsGrid. My name is Tom Vecchio. We have Adam Kaufman sticking around for one more segment. We just went through some baseball, but let's turn things over to the NFL. The NFL season starts in, 15 days exactly from today. It'll be that Thursday, the 3rd or the 4th, whatever it is. And we're going to dive into a few season-long wide receiver player props. I want to get his thoughts on some of these. So if we have the graphic, let's flash that for these player props. Let's start off with Emeka Egbuka, over 825.5 receiving yards. I am personally very high on Emeka Egbuka, specifically from a dynasty fantasy football perspective. We know that Mike Evans is there. Chris Godwin's not there to start the season. Jalen McMillan, as we got the news yesterday, is going to be out apparently until closer to week 9 with a neck issue. And that leaves Mike Evans and Cade Otton as the only two real receivers. And Emeka Egbuka should be starting in 2 wide receiver sets. Adam, any thoughts on this, and or how do you approach season-long props in the NFL?
So look, if you could get him when it comes to late round value, mid round value, best ball, season-long drafts, you talked about dynasty. There's every reason to be excited about this guy when it comes to dynasty. But a season-long prop of 825.5 feels like a pretty efficient number that I don't really want to bet, and if I was gonna bet it, I'd actually lean toward the under. Now, you can make the arguments for the over, the fact that, again, you said it, McMillan is hurt, is going to miss about half the season. Chris Godwin still coming back from his injury. Mike Evans, as good as he is, he's getting older. Last I checked, he is aging. He's 32 years old. But, you know, you look back at what happened last year, where obviously there were some injuries, like Chris Godwin, you know, would have had an incredible career year at the very least, if not historic year, had he stayed healthy before that injury. We know what ended up happening, but that factored into this. There's only one guy, it being Mike Evans, who had more than 600 receiving yards. One guy. I mean, that's a big difference between 600 and 825, and that was Cade Otton, by the way, who obviously came on in the second half of the year to get to that total in the first place. Now, Baker Mayfield has been fawning all over this guy. Todd Bowles has already called him a true number 1 wide receiver, and, you know, the suggestion that he could be a number 1, you know, anywhere, not just obviously in Tampa. Like, I get the praise, but this is praise season. The season hasn't started yet. So, you know, I don't know. Feels like a big number. If we were getting even 750.5, 775.5, you could probably push me over. 825.5, I feel like he's going to be chasing that one.
Okay. I mean, that's all very reasonable. And the expectations, again, maybe I have some blinders on because I'm just personally very high on him. But let's turn to a player that I know you are generally extremely frustrated with on a week in and week out basis. That is Zay Flowers of the Baltimore Ravens. So I'm going to go Zay Flowers under 900.5 receiving yards. Last year, he led the team with 1059 receiving yards. He played all 17 games. He had 5 games over 100 receiving yards. He had half of his receiving yards in 5 games when he played all 17. He had 8 games under 40 yards, 3 games under 20 yards. I mean, the fact that he got to 1,000 is because of those 5 games. The other games were kind of average to bad.
So you zig, I'll zag, all right? You're right. I am perennially, you know, frustrated by Zay Flowers. No doubt about it. I can't even tell you the number of builders that this guy has either cost me or at least deep into the fourth quarter felt like he was going to cost me. But again, you just consider all the factors. Now, one, yes, he's the clear-cut number 1 wide receiver on this Baltimore Ravens team, but it's a Ravens team that loves to run. So he's third banana to Lamar Jackson, to Derrick Henry. You know, Mark Andrews is going to have a full healthy season, presumably, so he factors in more than he did last year. But Munkin loves to get Flowers the ball, forces him the ball even. You know, they look for reasons to get Zay Flowers the ball, even using him more in the slot last year, where he had a boatload of targets. He was the number 1 targeted pass catcher by wide margins on this team with over 100 last year. On top of that, number 1 on the team, yards per route run, targets per route run, second in target share, you know, in a grouping of elite wide receivers in the NFL. I just think that ultimately feels a little low. 900.5 feels low.
All right. One more we'll flash quickly would be Marvin Harrison over 6.5 touchdowns. The Cardinals offense will be better this year. I think he goes over it. He had 8 last year. No real target competition between Trey McBride is awesome. But outside of that, Michael Wilson, Zay Flowers, I don't buy into those guys taking targets away from Maserati Mar. That's Adam Kaufman.
Over.
We'll be back after this. Cam Stewart's coming up for some golf.
Mets are a game and a half up in the wild card race from the Cincinnati Reds. But the Cincinnati Reds are 16 to 1, Joe. 60 to 1 to win the pennant here. But I do find myself looking at the New York Mets saying, there's too much talent on that team, and we know how things work out, even with the Philadelphia Phillies in the playoffs last year. Hey, we're a good baseball team. Mets get hot at the end of the year. Mets knock the Phillies out of the playoffs. We've seen that happen before.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Jalen Lane, fourth-round receiver from Virginia Tech, who's a dynamic slot receiver. Run after the catch. He's had a phenomenal camp. Really great offseason. He is really gifted. And obviously with McLaurin not practicing, he's getting a lot more of a look. Right. Now, the problem is, without McLaurin, they're not very deep at the outside receiver position. But Jalen Lane is a stud talent. I'm telling you, this kid should have gone higher.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
He's going to regress a little potentially in touchdowns, but his role's not going to change. There's no other superstar on this team besides Josh Allen. So to me, James Cook, they need James Cook if the Buffalo Bills are going to repeat in that division again. They need him to be that guy in the offense because there isn't another star around Josh Allen. So James Cook is as close as it gets. I'm sorry. It's not Khalil Shakir. It doesn't look like it's ever going to be Keon Coleman or Dalton Kincaid.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid. This is the moment every fan waits for. The countdown's over. The road to kickoff has begun.
Play is here to stay.
I'm not going to name names, Kevin.
From win totals to player props, from division races to MVP debates, we've got eyes on every camp and data feeding 24/7, breaking down every angle across the league. Every pick, every edge, every line that matters. SportsGrid. Your road to kickoff starts now.
What's going on? Welcome to Game Time Decisions right here on SportsGrid. My name is Tom Vecchio. Thanks to Adam Kaufman for stopping by, talking some baseball, talking some football. Now we turn over to some golf. Let's welcome on a regular here, Cam Stewart. And welcome, Cam. The Tour Championship gets underway tomorrow. Obviously a very unique setup, only 30 players in the field. First question I have for you is, based on what happened last week, Robbie McIntyre, kind of collapsing at the end, blowing that lead. Do you have any interest in him? Because I was talking with Brady Cannon yesterday. Would you back him or fade him when it comes to a 2-ball for the first round? Does he have the mental strength to keep it going?
I think he does, Tom, but I don't want any part of him for the tournament. And it's really shocking to me, Tom, because one of Robert McIntyre's strength is basically going up to people and say, I'm not afraid of you. Like he won the Canadian Open before. He won the Scottish Open. You know, he beat Rory McIlroy in a duel. So he's one of those guys. Remember even too, giving the fans the old shut up routine when he was playing. Bad move, pal, because Scotty Scheffler's breathing down your neck. And I talked about it with other people. The difference between Scheffler and Tiger Woods is Scheffler does it so quietly. No fist pumps, no whatever. So it's not like you don't even have like a dog on a bone. I'm going to get this guy. I'm going to get this guy. His quiet nature where he methodically plots and just bang, bang, and starts picking you up. 3 strokes down, 2 strokes down. Oh my God, he's tied for the lead. The quiet assassin is Scotty Scheffler, and that makes him dangerous, Tom. And I got to tell you this, first about McIntyre, I would expect him to rebound. I'm not taking him in the tournament. But you know what, Tom? I'm waving. I should have brought a flag. I'm waving it. And next year, if Scotty Scheffler comes out of the gate in Hawaii and wins a couple tournaments, I'm like, I'm going to do this all the time. Betting without Scheffler. I know the odds aren't there, but that's how good he is now. It's Tiger Wood-esque, right? Like for example, Cameron Young might be 30 to 1 this week. Without Scheffler, he's 20. I get it. You're losing line value, but this guy wins all the time, Tom. Like every time on Sunday, it's a sweat with this guy. Even when he's bringing his D game. Here comes Scheffler. He's 6 back. Like that's the thing. He is never not on page 1 or 2 or the leaderboard. Like on his worst performance, he's still there. So that's what we did. I've done a couple golf hits, and I'm like, I'm taking Scheffler right out of the mix. You seen the odds, Tom? Plus 160 this week. I know it's 30 guys, but plus 160 in a golf tournament. This is crazy stuff. So Scheffler, is he going to win? Probably, but I'm going to go in the no betting Scheffler markets for my guys this week and try to attack top 10s. That's the only way you can do it.
So when it comes to this course overall, who are you targeting, at least from a player standpoint? We know there's a big course. You got to be able to get down the fairway, stay accurate as well. Who are you targeting, at least for some outrights outside of Scheffler, obviously, or top tens?
Great call, Tom. You got to have a little bit of length here. You don't have to be the longest. Medium ball hitters have done well, but you can't spray it at East Lake. There's a lot of water. There's a lot of penal conditions, rough and tough pin placements. That's the whole thing. You got to hit it long, hit it straight. Guys that I like right now, it's interesting too. We're outside of Atlanta, and a Georgia Bulldog is going to be my first pick with Russell Henley. Russell Henley has had great success in this tournament before, Tom, and I really like him. 12-1, it's like, you want a little bit more, but he's a guy, sneaky long, great iron player, top 10 on tour, and his putter can get hot too. So he basically checks all boxes for me. If he was a little bit longer, I'd really like it, but I love Russell Henley. Also, Victor Hovland. He's won here before and had a top 5. The thing about Hovland, Tom, is, when some guy's so good at something, it's just, dude, get out of your head. Don't worry about your mechanics. Like, you were great when you didn't think. Just play your heavy metal, go out there and just do it. Just keep on doing it. But he got really mechanical. And that's the one thing about golf. Everyone's looking to tinker and toy. Sometimes guys just have a great game, but they're always thinking, what do I do to need better? But it makes them worse when they're trying to get better. So Victor Hovland's one of those guys. He should play on more field. 18-1 without Scheffler. And Cameron Young played good again. You know what, Tom? He's been one of these guys, just a fixture on page 1 or 2 of the leaderboard. He does fit the boxes for East Lake. Long hitter, very good iron player, and a streak putter. If that putter's good, he should be there. Tommy Fleetwood, people are like, I don't lay juice in golf. Well, you do in a 30-man tournament for a top 10. I could take him for a top 5, but Tommy Fleetwood, he might finish 6th, 7th, 8th. But I feel very comfortable with a top 10, and he's playing really, really well. Almost won before the blow-up. We all know he hasn't won on American soil, but also major top 5s and 10s, minus 120. Sam Burns almost won last week, but Scheffler just destroys everybody. Great track for Sammy. He went to LSU. He knows South Florida golf, or in Georgia. He's very, very good at plus 110. And JJ Spawn is becoming one of my favorites, Tom. All this guy does is show up in tournaments and play well. I looked at the course. It's perfect for him. And when his putter, you saw him at the U.S. Open, man, when this guy starts hitting bombs, watch out. JJ Spawn, plus money, plus 130 for a top 10 looks pretty damn good to me.
So you were the second guest we've had on to talk about or mention Spawn, because we had Brady Cannon on yesterday.
Oh, Brady likes Spawn too?
As an outright.
Ooh,
so I'm looking at Spawn not only for an outright, and again, it comes down to determining with or without Scheffler, but Spawn versus Rose, 2-ball, only round 1. Spawn's at minus 150. Any thoughts on that versus Justin Rose?
I got to be honest with you, Tom. That's too hefty of a price. If that was a tournament matchup bet, I'd love it. But one thing I know about Justin Rose is the old wily veteran, he gets out of the gate hot on Thursday. Remember Rose at the Masters, first round leader? I know a lot of people had it. I did at 60-1, and we were just high-fiving because that's what Justin Rose does. Over a lot of golf, 72 holes, Spawn will rise to the top. He will be better than Rose in my opinion, but for an 18-hole matchup, no. For a tournament matchup, if even at that price, yes, I would lay it. But I get really, really worried about these first-round bets, Tom. They could be scary, right? Like, some guy who's not even good can come out of the gate. So I actually have a couple first-round bets that I just put together. Harry Hall, he's 30-1. He went to UNLV, and by the way, is like, he's not going to make the Ryder Cup team, but he's a Brit that went to school in America, but very, very strong play, very solid in all aspects of the game. A great wedge player and putter too. He's a guy who has a great Thursday record too. I love him at 30-1 to come out of the gate. Those are guys you look for, right? Some of these, it's a 30-man tournament. Tom, can I tell you, out of this, 45-1 is the max first-round leader price. We used to get guys at 180-1 in full field events, right? Because there's so many guys, 136 players, 142. Now we only got 30. So you're looking at guys going, what do? We want a little bit of value. Harry Hall's my guy at 30-1.
So are there, in the 2-balls, obviously the juice is all over the place for some of these 2-balls. Are you looking to buy into a player, maybe like a Harry Hall or a Spawn, regardless of the odds? Would you look to carry them over day by day, knowing that they get hot, and or are there players that you're going to look to fade day by day just because they just don't have it?
It's a good question, Tom. And the thing about golf is, a lot of the times they say you can't back up a special round, but some guys can. The best can, like Scotty Scheffler. But JJ Spawn is one guy I would ride for multiple days. If he goes out and shoots a 65, he's capable of doing it again. A lot of these guys will shoot that low round and then blow up. They start thinking about it, right? But JJ Spawn is a guy. If he goes low on in round one, I would ride him again. There's certain guys that just can do that thing. Watch out, Tom. Another thing too, a lot of Georgia Bulldogs in this tournament, as I mentioned, and I talked about Henley, a lot of great golfers. And I could tell you, I don't know Brady's picks, but I think Harris English might be one of his picks because I know he loves this guy. He's another Georgia Bulldog. I like him in the top 10 markets. And Brian Harmon doesn't hit it that far, but another Georgia alum who's very, very good. And the thing about these guys is they've seen this track inside out. They've played it a million times going to school there.
And we have the Ryder Cup coming up in just a few weeks after this. Initial thoughts on that, and of course we'll have coverage of that leading up to that and the week of, but any initial thoughts for that and players that you'll be kind of keying in on as we approach that?
It's interesting because Team USA has some decisions to make, right? Is Keegan Bradley going to play himself as a captain? Is he going to, is he going to just say step back? I would, if I was him, probably step back and, just play the golf and let the assistants do some of the work. But like guys like Justin Thomas are in, but they're in horrible form right now, Tom. Like Patrick Cantlay, a guy that's won the FedEx Cup before. Where's he? Colin Morikawa. Every time I'm looking at where's Morikawa? Well, he's not inside the top 10, 20, or 30. He's struggling. So Team USA with the usual regulars are going to have some new faces in the mix, which is interesting. But everybody's going to be chomping the bit and wanting to play with Scotty Scheffler, and he'll probably play with his best buddy, Sam Burns.
All right. Tour Championship coming up this week starts tomorrow. Thanks to Cam Stewart for being here. Apparently, JJ Spawn is not back, at least the guy that I'll be on after this, if you and Brady both set him. Game Time Decision comes up after the break. Stay tuned.
The Mets are a game and a half up in the wild card race from the Cincinnati Reds. But the Cincinnati Reds are 16 to 1, Joe. 60 to 1 to win the pennant here. But I do find myself looking at the New York Mets saying, there's too much talent on that team. And we know how things work out, even with the Philadelphia Phillies in the playoffs last year. Hey, we're a good baseball team. Mets get hot at the end of the year. Mets knock the Phillies out of the playoffs. We've seen that happen before.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Jalen Lane, fourth-round receiver from Virginia Tech, who's a dynamic slot receiver. Run after the catch. He's had a phenomenal camp. Really great offseason. He is really gifted. And obviously with McLaurin not practicing, he's getting a lot more of a look. Right. Now, the problem is, without McLaurin, they're not very deep at the outside receiver position. But Jalen Lane is a stud talent. I'm telling you, this kid should have gone higher.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
He's going to regress a little potentially in touchdowns, but his role's not going to change. There's no other superstar on this team besides Josh Allen. So to me, James Cook, they need James Cook if the Buffalo Bills are going to repeat in that division again. They need him to be that guy in the offense because there isn't another star around Josh Allen. So James Cook is as close as it gets. I'm sorry. It's not Khalil Shakir. It doesn't look like it's ever going to be Keon Coleman or Dalton Kincaid.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid. This is the moment every fan waits for. The countdown's over. The road to kickoff has begun.
Play is here to stay.
I'm not going to name names, Kevin.
From win totals to player props, from division races to MVP debates, we've got eyes on every camp and data feeding 24/7, breaking down every angle across the league. Every pick, every edge, every line that matters. SportsGrid. Your road to kickoff starts now.
What's going on? Welcome back to Game Time Decisions right here on SportsGrid. My name is Tom Vecchio. Thanks to Cam Stewart for stopping by, giving us some golf picks for the Tour Championship, which is starting tomorrow. Lots get underway in the world of sports. College football is starting this Saturday. We'll, of course, have all the coverage right here on SportsGrid between the next few days, obviously on Saturday morning with college football today. Let's get back to the MLB board as we have seen the Yankees hit another home run to start off the game with Trent Grisham giving us a solo shot. It is still the top of the first, 2 on, 2 out. So we got the solo home run in the top of the first for the Yanks, which means the Yerfie comes through. The Marlins are now up 3-0 over the Cardinals, and they are threatening right now with bases loaded and no one out in the bottom of the fourth. So the Marlins are looking to pour in some runs, as I did say to start that game. I like the Marlins at -124 with Sandy on the mound. I did also say I like the under in that one. And it's already 3-0 in the bottom of the fourth, and they have the bases loaded. The Mets are now down 4-0 to the Nationals in the bottom of the fourth. Not looking good for the Mets. The Nerfy comes through in White Sox Braves. We missed that as we were doing when Adam Kaufman was here. We missed that first inning, but Nerfy does come through for White Sox Braves. Still 0-0 in the top of the third. Rather surprised to see that considering it's Waldrop and Martin Perez. We're now going to the middle of the first between the Athletics and the Twins. No runs scored in the top of the first inning for the Athletics. So the Nerfy hangs in the balance as we move to the bottom half of the first inning for the Twins. And then the Yerfie does come through for the Rangers in the top of the first. We did see Wyatt Langford with a home run off of Noah Cameron. So Yanks still threatening, Marlins still threatening. Nats have a runner on third with 2 outs, so they are looking to get some runs across the board. If we could jump back to the wide receiver graphics for this, just want to retouch on Marvin Harrison since we kind of sprinted through that at the end when it comes to Marvin Harrison receiving touchdown prop that I like this year. Again, over 6.5 receiving touchdowns. It is sitting at -122. You have to understand what that means. Last year, he had 8 touchdowns. And again, I'm a little bit higher on the Cardinals compared to other people this season. I think that I'm not saying the Cardinals are like a lock to make the playoffs. They're anything along those lines. I think they will be better than they were last year. They really struggled down the stretch. I also think they're going to be better than people realize, which means a variety of different things. Maybe they score more, and that can be a benefit to Marvin Harrison. Maybe they just cover X amount more spreads throughout the season. So they're playing in closer games. I like what Gannon is doing there and just building the team the way that they have. When it comes to Marvin Harrison specifically, I think he's going to take a big step forward and really be the dominant wide receiver that they drafted him to be. This does not say he didn't have a good year last year, because he did, but I really think we're going to see this 1-2 punch develop in both aspects, really, I should say, for the Cardinals offense. In the passing game, the 1-2 punch of McBride and Harrison. And then in the backfield, I think Trey Benson is really solid behind James Conner. So you give me 2 solid running backs, Kyler Murray and Harrison and McBride. I think they're going to score some points this year. I think they're going to get to 20, 24-ish points on a week in and week out basis, and we're going to be getting like 3 touchdowns from them. So Marvin Harrison over 6.5 touchdowns at -122. As I mentioned, I like Zay Flowers under 900 yards on the season, and Emeka Egbuka over 825. Emeka Egbuka is really just based on the injuries that the Bucs are dealing with. Zay Flowers, the 900. I understand there are a lot of metrics to back Zay Flowers. It's just a level of inconsistency that I am uncomfortable with. And when you have over 1,000 yards for Zay Flowers, 1,059 to be exact last year, 5 of those games, or 5 of the games from him last year, when he played all 17, he had over 100 yards in 5 games. He had half of his production in 5 of 12 games. Now, there's a very realistic scenario that the Ravens recollect themselves in the offseason and be like, hey, we just need Zay Flowers. We don't need a game of 100 and a game of 20 and then a game of 100 and a game of 10. We need Zay Flowers to be at 50 or 60 every game. And we just need to have a level of consistency to move the offense and things even out. And he is consistently pushing his way towards 1,000. That could certainly happen. Regardless of that, I am buying into the under on that one. A run-heavy offense will be there when it's all said and done. As for the upcoming MLB games, if we could flash the crew best bets, because We have some of them underway, but the one that AJ and I are aligned on would be the Milwaukee Brewers visiting the Chicago Cubs under 6.5 total runs. That is sitting at minus 102, or was sitting at minus 102. It's in the lower 70s. We're also seeing 15 mile per hour wind blowing in at Wrigley Field. And as usual, Wrigley Field is a stadium that is impacted more severely by wind on a per mile per hour basis compared to other stadiums. This is really the main event, at least when it comes to today's baseball slate. Brewers, Cubs. Cubs have certainly looked good in this series. They've gotten a couple games on the Brewers, chasing them down. The lead is now down to 7 in the NL Central. And this is a pivotal game for the Cubs. If they can take this and know that they won 3 out of 5 games in this series, that could be absolutely huge for their push towards the division. Now, the standings would be at 6 games after that. They still have 1 more game to play. When it's all said and done, a team overcoming a 6-game lead and or a team blowing a 6-game lead in 5 weeks of the season left, we're August 20th now, that's a lot to ask. It really is. Blowing a 6-game lead, overcoming a 6-game lead, whatever you want to call it. I think that's a bit much to ask. At a certain point, the Brewers will only have to play, I'm not going to say 500 baseball, we'd have to do the actual math, but they don't need to be winning 75% of the games. The Cubs would need to win 75% of their games, and the Brewers fall below a 500 winning percentage of their remaining games. I just don't see that happening. I do not see the Cubs overcoming a 7-game deficit with 5 weeks to play, let's call it. So this has more to do with the Cubs heading into the postseason as a team because they failed to make big moves at the deadline. And that is very, very apparent in these past few weeks when they have been ice cold on offense. Kyle Tucker has looked terrible, and the Brewers are doing nothing but cruising. We will close out the show with a few more MLB thoughts, NFL thoughts. Stay tuned. Game Time Decisions. We'll be back after this.
The Mets are a game and a half up in the wild card race from the Cincinnati Reds. But the Cincinnati Reds are 16 to 1, Joe. 60 to 1 to win the pennant here. But I do find myself looking at the New York Mets saying, there's too much talent on that team. And we know how things work out, even with the Philadelphia Phillies in the playoffs last year. Hey, we're a good baseball team. Mets get hot at the end of the year. Mets knock the Phillies out of the playoffs. We've seen that happen before.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Jalen Lane, 4th-round receiver from Virginia Tech, who's a dynamic slot receiver. Run after the catch. He's had a phenomenal camp. Really great offseason. He is really gifted. And obviously with McLaurin not practicing, he's getting a lot more of a look. Right. Now, the problem is, without McLaurin, they're not very deep at the outside receiver position. But Jalen Lane is a stud talent. I'm telling you, this kid should have gone higher.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
He's going to regress a little potentially in touchdowns, but his role's not going to change. There's no other superstar on this team besides Josh Allen. So to me, James Cook, they need James Cook if the Buffalo Bills are going to repeat in that division again. They need him to be that guy in the offense because there isn't another star around Josh Allen. So James Cook is as close as it gets. I'm sorry. It's not Khalil Shakir. It doesn't look like it's ever going to be Keon Coleman or Dalton Kincaid.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid. This is the moment every fan waits for. The countdown's over. The road to kickoff has begun.
Play is here to stay.
I'm not going to name names, Kevin.
From win totals to player props, from division races to MVP debates, we've got eyes on every camp and data feeding 24/7, breaking down every angle across the league. Every pick, every edge, every line that matters. SportsGrid. Your road to kickoff starts now.
What's going on? We're back on Game Time Decisions. Last segment here for myself. It has been great hosting over the past week. Today is my final show hosting while Kevin Walsh was out. He'll be back in the mix tomorrow. Let's run through what do we want to recap here? The MLB board is underway. Runs are basically the same across the board. If you're the Nerfy came through in Twins Athletics, if you are the Mets got a run on the board. It's 4-1 there. That game is looking to cruise over. The Marlins somehow didn't score runs when they had the bases loaded with nobody out. So credit to the Cardinals for getting out of that jam. But let's jump back to and recap quickly the wacky Wednesday bets for today because they are all over the place. Some of these are under action, as I said. Braves are involved in mine, getting some hits from Michael Harris and the Braves to score runs. Got a hit from Lindor already. Need the Mets to continue to score runs there. Kopsky likes the Rays and the Yanks each to score 3 runs. We need also runs when it comes to the White Sox and the Braves game, which that's actually trending badly. Pete Alonso and Tyler Soderstrom both to have, 2 HRR. AJ with just a bananas pick. Any player to hit an inside the park home run when it comes to Giants Padres at 75-1. Part of me wants to think you could actually theoretically handicap that in some parks that are more prone to triples and then layer that on top of teams that have bad fielders. And you could put yourself in a spot to at least reason your way to a handicap on an inside the park home run. And then Pat likes Hamby for 20-plus points and Xavier Edwards for over half a steal. It'd be great if Xavier Edwards could have a steal as I am in my fantasy baseball consolation bracket. It'd be great to see him put a steal across the board for me when it comes to the losers bracket in my dynasty league. Regardless of that, let's turn from one fantasy aspect to another and recap Tom's 12, the top 12 fantasy tight ends for this upcoming season. As again, we have run through all the positions over the past week. We did quarterbacks yesterday. We did wide receivers on Monday. We did running backs last Thursday. And here are the tight ends. Yes, I'm buying into Kyle Pitts for one more season. Fool me once, shame on me, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Fool me a third time, I guess I'll be shamed again. Regardless of that, I'm on the Colston Loveland train for the Bears with that offense. Caleb Williams taking a big step forward. Mark Andrews and the Ravens get things done this season. He puts up a big year, and we see a higher level of consistency. Tucker Kraft, I think, is that security option for Jordan Love, who did have offseason hand surgery a couple weeks ago. It is his non-throwing hand. But the wide receiver room is really just all over the place for the Packers. I'm not too set on it. David Njoku for the Browns. I like the overall target share that he could have. The offense is going to be bad. His touchdowns aren't going to be there, but the targets and the yards should be there. Evan Ingram, as we talked about, is now potentially in for a theoretically expanded role with Devon Bailey being traded from the Broncos to the Saints in the middle of the show, as I spoke about a little bit before. It should really come down to, and Sky Moore, as I'm hearing now, Sky Moore from the Chiefs, who has been terrible the entirety of his NFL career, is now being traded to the 49ers. And now people will somehow think that Kyle Shanahan will turn him into some type of gadget option to replace the Deebo Samuel role because they traded Deebo to Washington, would be my initial takeaway after hearing that. Back to the tight ends after we get to Evan Ingram, who I do think will be in a solid year with Bo Nix, especially now that some target shares opened up in the past half hour. We have Travis Kelce, George Kittle, the two mainstays that have been there for many, many years. And again, maybe Kittle is in for a bit of a bigger role with suspensions and injuries still being hit by the 49ers. Maybe I'm a little bit too high on TJ Hawkinson, but I do think he should be that second receiving option in the Vikings offense. And again, JJ McCarthy taking his first ever NFL starts should be looking to A, Justin Jefferson, but then B, TJ Hawkinson in order to continue to move the chains. Sam Laporta and the Lions, same offense from last year. It's absolutely loaded. Yes, they may be due for some regression. Yes, Ben Johnson, their OC, isn't there anymore this year. There could be some growing pains, but his role is extremely secure. And then the top two are basically consensus. No matter where you're going to be looking, it's Trey McBride, it's Brock Bowers. They're unbelievable. Brock Bowers on a per team basis, whatever you want to call it, his target share is going to be unbelievable because Jacoby Myers and then nobody else in the passing offense is going to threaten Brock Bowers when it comes to target share in that offense. His props are going to be Absolutely awesome on a week in and week out basis. That is Tom's 12. Thank you for being here over the past week when I've been hosting. You'll, of course, see me here as a guest every week, twice a week, whatever it might be. But Kevin Walsh will be back with you tomorrow. It has been great hosting this. Good luck to your bets tonight, and I will see you guys next time.
For the countdown's over. The road to kickoff has begun.
Play is here to stay.
I'm not going to name names, Kevin.
From win totals to player props, from division races to MVP debates, we've got eyes on every camp and data feeding 24/7, breaking down every angle across the league. Every pick, every edge, every line that matters. SportsGrid, your road to kickoff